Hello friends, welcome back to this channel. In this video, we are going to talk about configuring role-based authorization with client-side Blazor, that is a Blazor WebAssembly. In the previous video that I have made, we have talked about how do you authenticate user, and that is what we call as authentication, that's a Blazor authentication using the web API, okay, and other packages as well. So this one that you see on the screen was what we did in the previous video. I have the link under the description, so you can check and watch that video before you watch this, because we are continuing this. But thanks God, if you already know how to create an authentication, then we are going to perform the role base. So first of all, let's try to create an account here and log in and see how the authentication works for this application. I have an empty application that we created in the previous video. And now in this, as you can see from here, I can see we have register and login button on top here, and that is these buttons are used to register an account or to log into the account registered. So, and I have the database also open. Currently, if I refresh this, nothing happens here. So let's get going first and try to register. So this is the account. Now click on the register button and we are on the registration page. So let's pass an email as maybe an example. And then you pass in the password as, so let's pass in password as user1, or let's say you can change this to, let's set this to admin. So admin at example.com, then you can pass the password as admin at 123. So admin at 123, I'll end this, okay. So we have please wait while the account is being created. Now you can see the account is now created, and now you can now log in as the admin at example.com. So let's see, admin at, that is example.com, and now the password is admin at 123. So submit. Now please wait. Now you can see hello admin, a logout button is shown. When we go to the database, let's try to refresh and see what we have now. Okay, so you can see we have the account that we just registered. We have it inside the database table, and that is the ASP.NET users table. Okay, that is what we did, and let's go through the codes that we use. But this, you can still log out, and as soon as you click on log out, you have to now go to login again. So we can still log in here, and admin at example.com, let's use that. So let's change this as admin at example.com, then admin at 123. Let's log in. Right click on this and go to inspect element, and let's see if bearer token has been generated, and set it as the header. So let's see. Now let's wait. Okay, so let's go to network. Now let's click on fetch data, and let's see, you see we have an authorization, that's the bearer token being generated, and aside from that, you see we have normal cookies as well. Okay, so this is what we are focusing on. Alright, so let's see how the code works. We're going to just glance through it. If you want to have the actual step-by-step of doing it, you can just watch the video that I have made, and I'll put the link under the description as well, so you can check that. And it is authentication in Blazor, or Blazor authentication using the web API as well. Okay, so let's see. Now when it comes to the source code, the first thing that we did was we worked on the server project by creating a WebAssembly project. So in the server project, this is what we did. Let me just, okay, so we had a connection set up under the app settings.json, and you can see we have these keys over here. That's what we use for date expiration. We have audience and issuer as ourselves, pointing to ourselves, that's the local host. There's a security key, and there's a database connection. Aside from that, we went on to create our appdb context file, and that's application db context file. We inherited from this identity db context file. So this db context file contains the database table and all the related data that we can see inside the database table. And aside from that, we perform a database migration, as you can see the migration folder here. We went ahead and create the controller for accounts, and there's a controller for accounts. So if you want to register, you're going to use your email and the same email. So we're going to turn the email as a username, and we take your email as well, we create your account for you, then return access when it is done. If you want to log in, it's very simple. The login controller that's also we created, we inject these services as identity user, signing manager, and configuration that I config together settings from the app settings.json. So we initialize them here, and the model that is coming in here, we check if the password has sync with what we have in the database, so that's the signing manager. If it does so, then we get our claims here by setting up the email as the name. Then we create our key, our credential, and the expiry date. We get all these from the app settings, and here we use an algorithm to just convert the credentials, okay, with the HMAC SH8256. After that, we need to generate our token, and that's what we've done here. So we generate a token by passing in this variable that we have stored. Then we create our token and return it to the user. So after that, then we have to call a services, that is a custom services from the client project, and that's going to be an API authentication state provider. Okay, so as you can see from here, we put it in a folder called API Authentication State Provider, and we also injected the HTTP client and the local storage. So this is a package that we installed. Then after initializing them here, we can now get a method. We can override this method from the authentication state provider. Then we can set the local storage, that's the current token, and we get the claims and we pass it to the header. Here we use an email to tell the authentication state provider that this user is authenticated by using the email. And here when the user logs out, we also tell the authentication state provider. And here that's what this from Max Anderson, the method to decrypt and separate the token into various loads that we can actually use. And that is it from here up to the last end. Okay, so this is what we did. After that, we created our iService as a service folder to render this service to the client, and we created a folder called service. We pass in the iAuth service, so that enables user to log in and also register and to log out. Aside from that, we created the implementation. As you can see from here, we have these services also injected. We initialize them here. Now to register, we call the service over here, that's the controller API such account. If it's successful, return this. Then we have to go to the login. So login to move it to the login. Then if it's successful, then we get the token from the local storage. Then we authenticate the user with the email. Okay, return the login result. And when the user logs out, we also remove the local storage authentication token. Then we set the user the default header request as now. So that's what we did to get this work. Okay, so I took a time to explain this under that video. So if you haven't watched that, you can just go down there, and that is going to be the first one, I think so, under the related videos. You can check on that and watch that video to get a beautiful understanding before you can now move on with it. But if you think you are okay with that, then we can now move ahead and set up the role-based authorization. So to move on with this, first of all, let's understand. Now when we talk about authentication, is to determine what the user claims to be. So let's say I am saying that I am this, I am that. Now I created this account. Okay, so I use my username and password. So if I'm saying I'm that person, they have to provide the account that I use for registration. So if I'm able to provide it and everything is intact, I am authenticated, and that's what you know as authentication. Now authorization is when I am authenticated, when I log into your account, what are the services that your application can render to me based on the state that I am. Am I a user? Am I an anonymous? Am I an administrator? Am I a manager? Or etc. Okay, so based on this state, you can now render service to me. That is what you call this authorization. So with this, we are going to start, and there's going to be a simple one. This is the core idea that we have. So if you're able to create this, it means you're good to go. Now with the authorization, it's going to take us a few minutes to implement that. Okay, and that's also going to be very, very simple. So the first thing that we need to do here is we have to add the role service. So we need to add the identity role service in the server project under the program.cs file. So we close all this. So as for this, we can close it over here. So let's close this one, and let's also close this. So in here, this is what we're going to do. Let's go to the server project, and we have our server open. Now in the program.cs file, we need to add rows to it. Okay, so in here, let's add add rows, and now this rows, you can pass in identity rows. So you need to add identity row. So we are done with this. Now the next thing that we need to do here is also quite simple. We need to create our identity rows. Okay, as soon as the page loads, we check if the rows are not created, we create them. So how do you do that? You're going to do that inside the application DB context. So you can now close this Solution Explorer. Now you go to application DB context, and now in there, this is what we can use to create that row. So let me grab this, and in here we can now paste this here. So we use the model creating, we override that method, and now we check if the identity row has data. We can skip this, but if it doesn't have this data, then I want to create user and admin. Very simple one. So this method is going to create user and admin to the row. Now you see each row here has a name and normalized name, ID, and concurrency stamp. Okay, by using new GUID, okay, for the ID and the concurrency stamp as well. Okay, so now we have our rows. We have 2 rows in this for user and admin, but I can create more. I can decide to create super user, manager. It depends on the application, the requirement. Maybe if you want user, maybe have limited services, manager has moderate services, and administrator has 90%, and maybe super user has all. You can do that by adding these various rows in here, but for now, for the particular base, we make these 2. That's it. Okay, so once you're done with this, we have to perform database migration. So let's add the seeding. Let's see these rows. Okay, so we can do that by add-migration. Then let's see seed rows. So that is it. And now let's run this query to perform the rows in there. So you can see built as seeded. We wait for a while, then we update the database. So let's update the database. So update dash database. Let's update it. Okay, so let's see, can I perform this action? So update database, and let's see, let's do that again and see. So update database. Alright, so you see it is now done. Now let's go to SQL Server Object. Let's open a table here, and now this data that we just registered has no row, so we can now delete this row from it. So let's delete that. Okay, and in here we can now log out. Okay, so now let's check if the rows have been updated to the table. You can do that by opening ASP.NET rows, and let's view data and see whether you have a user and the admin, normalized name, and concurrency stamp. Okay, so we have this. That's right. Now we can now close them, and let's close these. Let's close, and let's close this. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do here is we need to update the API custom, or that is a custom authentication state provider. So let's go in there and update that. So we can do that by going to the client project, then we open the utility and the API authentication state provider. Now there are some few changes that we need to make. Now see here we are passing in email to authenticate the user, but here we need to pass in the token as we have generated, because currently the token must have maybe a rows added. Okay, so we have to do that, and in order to do that we need to use this method to override that, an API. So let's use this. Let's make a little change over here. So instead of using the email, I want us to use the token rather. Okay, so let's see. Now this method is going to receive a token, and now we pass it to with the Max Anderson's method. We get a token to have the various loads over there, and the type is JWT. Then we authenticate the user. We tell the system that yeah, this person authenticated, and that's what this method is doing. Okay, now when the user tries to log out, what should happen? Let's see the next one that we need to perform. Now when the user tries to log out, we have the same thing as indicated here. Okay, so we have nothing much to do over here. All that you need here is to change this mark user as authenticated and passing the token instead of the email address. So once you're done with this, let's go to the controller in the server project, and here let's see with the account creation of account method, what are the things that we need to do here. After we've checked and everything is okay, now we have to now add the rows. So how do you add the rows here? Accounts, and we can do that. Okay, so let's copy this to add the rows here. So now we are adding any user that creates an account here, we add it to the user account. But if the person name starts with admin, meaning that person is an administrator, so we are assigning an admin row to the person having an email that starts with admin. Although this piece of information here, you can decide to change it. You can you can check out a specific email and assign admin to, but for now we just check if the name has admin start, then we assign it to the admin, else it's going to skip and add all of them to the user. Okay, so admin must have an admin word in front of their email, and users may have all the other ones, but for admin that's a specified one. Okay, so once you're done with this, let's also specify, let's go to our login and make some changes over there. So account login, that's a login controller, and in there we have to make some few changes also. So let's also copy this, and you can change this for the login. Okay, so you can now copy this and you can replace it over here. So what you're doing here is you're going to find the person, this module coming in, you're going to find the email from the sign-in manager. Now when we also get the rows as well, then we store them here. After that we look through the rows, okay, and add them to the claims. Then we move on to the normal ones that we did. So these are the few changes that we need to do to get the user email and also get the user row, because you need a row to authenticate the user, and after authentication we need a row to authorize the user to the specific content that the user can access. So this method is going to help us achieve that. So once you're done with this, let's also go to the auth service inside the client project. Now auth service, and here where we call this method mark user as authenticated, say it is receiving a token, so we need not to pass an email again, but rather it's supposed to be a token. So we pass in the token over here. Let's see what you can do to get the token. Since you're using post as async, let's see if you can actually have the results here. So login result, this is the response as we see, and we are using this, so we can use this login result and get a token. So dot, then can now get the token, so you pass in the token here. Okay, so now we save this, and now the last thing that we need to do here is we specify the attribute row. So let's see, now let's go to Solution Explorer, and now inside this pages folder I want us to use this counter page, and let's see if I can have, or we can have a method in this to use. We have counter, so let's use a counter and let's use this method and let's paste it here. Okay, so what this actually doing here is, now we check this is an authorized view, and now the row is user and the row is admin. but admin has already been assigned as user. So when I sign in with admin, I may see a user and I may see an admin. But if I sign in as only username, I can see only the username. Let's save this and let's try and see. So in application, let's run it and see what we have now. So it is refreshing. Let's wait for the refreshing to be made. Then we see if we can actually sign up a new account here by adding a row. Then we can now log in. So let's register account here, register the admin and the user. So admin at admin.com, and the password here is admin at 123, admin at 123. Now let's submit this. So let's wait and see. So it is done. Let's register a user as well. So user at user.com and user at 123, user at 123. Let's also submit a user. Okay, so we see as soon as we started with admin, now it's going to assign a user row and admin row. But as soon as it starts with user, it's going to assign only a user row. Now let's log in and see. So I'm going to copy this and I'll just paste this here. Okay, so let's wait for this to load. Then we can want to sign in admin and user here. So just log in. Let's sign in admin here. So admin at admin. We have admin at admin.com and the password is admin at 123. So that's an admin. Let's sign in and see what we have now. So we are in. Hello admin. Okay, and let's sign in here as user. So user at user.com and the password is user at 123. Submit. Now let's see. So this is also user. All right, now let's click on counter and I can see hello user, you are user. Okay, so hello, we have the username here, that's the email, and it's saying you are user. Let's see with the admin. So counter, you can see we have you are user, you are admin. Okay, so let's see. Let's copy the same thing here and let's go to that of shared folder, and inside the nav menu let's try to figure it out. Let's paste this. Now I want us to copy this. Let's try to copy this one here and let's try to paste this in. So one here, we have two here. Then if it is admin, you want to see one here and two here as well. Okay, so let's now move all of these and now cut this, and the next line, that is this, you can now paste this beneath. Okay, so user are going to see this. So user, you may have update user profile. So update user profile, and here you can also say make inquiries. Okay, now this is for user. Now with admin, you can say manage users and add products. Okay, so let's see this. Now only admin can see this. Here only users can see this. But since admin is also a user, has multiple rows, admin can see all this, but user can see only this. Let's save this and see. So let's reload all the pages. So there's a admin and there is a user. So let's also reload this as user. Now you can see this what is the admin. Now this users can see you are user. Now user can see update user profile and I'll make inquiries. But let's go to the admin and see. So let's see this user and it's also user. Alright, so let's log this one out. Okay, so this is user, and now let's sign this in as an admin. So sign in, and there's an admin. So admin at admin, and admin at 123. So submit. Alright, so you can see with the admin we have update user profile, make enquiries, manage user, add product. Go to user and see update user profile and now make enquiries. So you can see we are through. So that is a way to assign role to a user. Okay, so this is a role-based authorization, and now this project, as you can see here, it is a combination of the authorization and role-based, that is authentication, user authentication, and role-based authorization, and that's what you can see here. So when you have a project like this and want to have these security features, you can actually apply this, and users can see related data to users, whilst admin can see a related data to admin. If you want them to see the users as well, it is possible by having to make a multiple roles. Now we're able to fish out the users role inside the custom authentication state provider, that is the API authentication state provider. If you actually check here, this is what we did to get the rows. Now here we just check for row. Okay, so we are saying that if the row starts with this, it means now the rows as what? User and admin. So this is multiple, because let's say inside this, let's use one of these as an example. Let's say if we decide to pass an attribute like this, like attribute, then we pass in, let's say authorize. Now with this authorize, you can specify this authorize. So let's inject control plus period. Now let's inject authorization, and you can say rows is equal to, okay, so you can pass in admin, then user. So when you pass in this, it means that admin can have access, user can also have access. Okay, so when it is looping through and it gets to a form whereby it has this like this statement, meaning that the rows are many, so it should loop through. So this is what we are using over there. So as you can see, when you go to, let me click this off first. Okay, so when you go to this API authentication state provider, you see if it starts with this, it means there is multiple, then we loop through and add. But if it doesn't start with this, it means the row is one, it should add it. And that's the reason why we're able to loop through the user and the user and administrator as well. So I believe this is clear and it is simple. Yeah, okay, so that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Actually, I have another channel as well, and in case I will link the authentication video in the description. You can just go in there and grab it. I also make available of the source code, so under the description, so you can just also go there to grab the source code too as well. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully I'll see you next time.